They did though, 'cause I used to go live with friends and just like talk and talk.
Matcha time.
Ooh, ooh.
Figured I may as well show a little bit of what your van life is like. Yes.
We're so insane.
Jinx. So organized.
Honestly, the drawers are my favorite. Like this one, I'll show you.
Yeah.
This is my athleisure drawer, and I have it paired by outfits, so you literally can just like grab an outfit, get ready for the gym, which is right across the street. Love that.
And so this is powered by propane.
Yes, it is.
Would you consider this glamping?
Deep glamping.
With the frother, you gotta have it.
Gotta have all the things.
Is this almond milk or oat milk? What are we working with today?
This is almond. I do prefer oat with my matcha, but you know, we're going a little lighter today.
What we got today.
What we got, we're gonna add some vanilla extract. Oh, we dripping, but it's okay. Because matcha's here to save the day.
Matcha's my drink. I am like a walking matcha now.
You are, you're all green.
I provide energy and greenness.
Deep vibrancy and vitality.
This is so cool, actually. I'm glad that I'm like capturing some of like your routine in the morning and what your how you start your day.
This, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right, just clean up.
Pretty little flowers. And this is where
Feel free to look around.
This is where the driving chambers are.
And this is so nice for sound.
I love that.
Super soothing. When you
like when you're
road
driving,
trips.
yeah.
Yes.
So cool.
I'm all about setting a vibe.
It's all about the vibe. I'm very particular with my home. Like,
yeah, your space looks sweet. You're recording.
I'm all about the home and creating like a space that nurtures creativity.
Yes.
And
so
connection
important.
And like coziness. And this is totally cozy.
Deep cozy vibes. It's my Zen Den on wheels.
Zen Den on wheels.
Perfect. Cozy.
So let's do a little meditation.
I'd love that. I might have to take this off.
Coming into the present moment, allowing anything that was just happening to drift away. Just two divine feminines coming together to explore the deeper parts of ourselves together. Trusting that anything our souls are wanting to share will effortlessly flow from our beings. Just coming into a space of gratitude that we get to share this space together. I already feel so much love here with you. I'm so excited to explore.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So good.
Very grounding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing this space with me today.
Absolutely. Happy to have you in my Zen Den.
Zen Den, I love that. Yeah. Such a beautiful space you have.
Thanks. Your colors are really like with a butterfly poster vibe.
Wait, butterfly poster, yes.
Yeah.
I'll have to get a shot of that later. Butterflies are kind of my thing now. Ever since I was like little girl, I used to take, it was like kind of like a like school craft thing where you would take like tissue paper and then crinkle it in the middle with a clothespin.
Okay.
And then take a string and like hang it from the ceiling. I had those like in my childhood bedroom.
Oh, that's so cool.
Everywhere. I just love the symbolism of transformation and like spreading your wings and just the metamorphosis and kind of the innocent, like effortlessly floating through the world kind of energy.
Right, and like starting off as this small little, even before a caterpillar, the larvae, I believe is what it's called, and then transforming into that and then into the butterfly. It's like a really beautiful process. And I too just feel like super connected to them. It's like when people ask my spirit animal, I say I don't really have an animal, it's more an insect, but I always say butterfly. Like I really feel connected to them as well.
Yeah. Because they're like weightless too. They're they're like feathers.
Graceful.
Yeah.
Like feminine. They're just like flowing, and I really admire that about them.
Like, and carrying that energy through life. I kind of have like a random saying that I came up with like a little while ago. I love to act in the world with, and this is maybe, it sounds a little wrong, but I'm just gonna say it anyways.
Go for it.
I move through the world with a heavy heart but a light hand. So like I go in with all of my heart, but like there's no attachment to it. Like I just let it be fluid, and like I don't ever put any heavy thoughts or action like forcefully.
That's so beautiful.
And I feel like that's kind of the butterfly vibe as well. Just
definitely.
Like, they're not attached to any flower in particular. It's just like...
Like, literally just floating, flowing effortlessly. And, like, that's something I've been focusing on a lot these past couple weeks, is tapping more into my flow state versus that forceful nature that we humans can easily succumb to just with our society today. You know, like, doing all the things. But instead of like planning rigidly, being more open to exploring the possibility of what can arise with simply being present. It's pretty cool. I've been noticing a lot of sweet stuff lately.
There's so much opportunity in the magic of the moment that can't be planned.
Yes, you said that so perfectly.
Have you read the book Flow versus Force?
No.
I saw it on someone's bookshelf. Like, literally last night I was hanging out with a friend.
That one has caught my eye before.
I think I need to read it as well, because like I've heard like little quotes from it, but I want to dive more deeply into that concept as I am applying that to my life.
We should hold each other accountable to that
book. Let's do little book club vibe.
I love that, because I'm reading Letting Go right now. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's the yellow and white cover.
I have seen that. I think I did read it, actually.
Is it by the same person?
It might be, actually. Actually, yeah, that was like their second
so
book.
Funny.
On Audible, are you listening to it, or are you reading it in real life?
I have it, the book, and I recommend everyone get the hard copy, just because it's like nice to be able to reference. For example, it taps into the various emotions, so like perhaps you're experiencing a bit of anger or resentment. Like, what does that mean? How can you sympathize with yourself and move past it? That's like super cool. I feel like once I'm able to quote unquote master that, because you know, it's a lifelong journey. We're always growing, always evolving. No one's perfect. Just being able to like learn how to navigate these emotions with more grace, and like not necessarily need to externally process things with the person it involves, but rather like internally process. That's something I've been really working on.
I think that's a much more feminine approach too.
I could see that.
I think women kind of internalize their pain and kind of go inward, where men are a little more like aggressive and like outward with their, like they need to go to the gym to like let that shit out, you know?
Right, like not necessarily talk to another dude about it, be like, bro, I gotta talk to you about this, but instead like exactly how you said, go to the gym, get it out, or just like whatever that guy feels called to do.
The masculine outward, yeah. So it's interesting, because I think in the world in general, you talk about, you know, the societal state that we're in. I think adding more feminine approaches to, you know, for example, dealing with our emotions or otherwise, I think is just necessary right now, because we've been so out of balance on the masculine side. And I think even men can benefit from applying more feminine approaches to the things that they do. And I'm seeing it slowly but surely.
I feel that too.
Yeah.
Lots of shifts within the men.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's sexy to me. You know what I mean?
Do you have an example of something recent you've noticed in a masculine?
Yeah, I feel like the guys I tend to surround myself with are pretty conscious for the most part. Like, they know what's good, not only when it comes to their health and fueling their body with high vibrational foods, meditating, working out regularly, like all of those fundamental things. I feel like the main component I notice and admire the most in like these newer age masculine men is really their ability to connect with the divine feminine and like really see us and hold us and have that capacity to just like really feel and allow there not necessarily to be any sort of expectation or outcome that they have in mind, but rather just holding that beautiful space that we so deeply desire as women. You know, like that's huge.
Yeah, and I mind experiment with this a lot. Like, I've had a fear through my life of people in general.
Okay.
Just kind of a hesitancy of, you know, potentially losing myself around others and losing track of my energy versus theirs. And specifically around masculines, I've always felt myself expecting their expectation of those physical kind of sexual outcomes. You know, as just a woman in the world.
Very natural.
I don't mean to pin that in my mind with them, but sometimes I do feel that there is this monkey brain kind of thing that flips in men sometimes to where that is kind of sexually the only thing that they're thinking about, like their body takes over.
Yeah,
and
it's
that
a
has
deep
been a
physical
fear
thing,
for me.
for sure.
Have you seen that? Like, is there an equilibrium happening with men being able, not necessarily to control it? I'm not sure what the answer is with that, but is it just a consciousness level, like you're speaking of, that they're aware of these sensations but not necessarily acting upon them impulsively?
So just to make sure I totally understand what you're saying, basically, like, men having these sexual urges, very natural. You know, it's kind of like when women ovulate, we're a little more frisky than normal, and like we're really feeling into the men energy that they emanate, the male energy. And with them, like, it's a bit more difficult for them to control, is what you're saying.
I'm wondering if at a certain point, even if it's subconscious, where they're in a situation with a woman and somewhere along the way that outcome starts kind of like flipping in their mind of like, ooh, I want this woman in that way. Not saying that that's bad, but when do their minds start flipping to that, and do the things that they do around that become part of the objective of obtaining that outcome?
Oh,
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would be,
because it's so strong in them,
right?
And I empathize with that. Like,
exactly,
I feel that too,
because we can only try to put ourselves in their shoes, you know, and experience those sensations, that like instant horniness that comes about almost. And I feel like the guys who are more on the spiritual path, they are able to tap in and like realize, well, yes, this woman is beautiful and I would love the opportunity to share intimacy with her. Also realizing, like, more so reading, like gaining better ways to read energy from a person. Because I do notice in the past, like, some guys who walk the walk, don't necessarily talk the talk, and they're not great at reading energy. Because, like, for example, I've had moves pulled on me where I've definitely been, like, giving off friend vibes, and that just puts us in a weird position.
Because they're not picking up on that.
Right, because they're not,
right.
I feel like, going back to what you said about the outcome, like being more outcome oriented, they're like more so fixated on that rather than reading the energy of the present moment. Ooh.
That's some beautiful advice for, I think, and I think, not to say that their chances would increase if they had that. Maybe it's still not the vibe.
It's definitely sexier.
But honestly, like, it kind of does help, where it's like, are we really feeling each other right now? And sometimes there's an urgency too of like, I feel that expectation now. Not like 3 times from now when we hang out again, but like tonight. It's gotta happen for him, you know?
Right.
And that's pressure for us women, I feel.
Deep pressure.
Yeah.
Especially if we're seeking male friends. Like, for someone who comes from having a lot of male friends, when I lived in Virginia, I had primarily guy friends just because I found that the women were really hard to connect with, and it was more so like catty energy. People wanted to like, yeah, it was very competitive, you could say. And then moving out to San Diego, women are so beautiful and so kind and just want to lift you up. At least that's the experience I've had, just like very open arms, welcoming energy. And I don't have as many guy friends, and I realized that recently. And while I'm also calling in some sort of companionship, I also desire just more male friends. And so I actually hung out with someone last night, and it was beautiful. We had hung out once before, and he moved here from cross country as well, so it was nice to be able to connect with him from the digital space to in person. And with that, like, I was attracted to him the first time. A lot of time had passed. Hung out last night, super recent, and made dinner, hung out. It could be seen as like romantic, you know, it's a small space in here, cooking dinner
Date
together.
vibe, kind of.
Yeah, candle lit during dinner, like, it's a vibe, but also I'm a Taurus, and like, I just love setting the vibe.
Of course.
Yeah. And so towards the end of the night, when we're sitting in his van, because he's also doing van life, we were on the topic of receiving, and I was just admiring how recently I've been able to really like sit in my feminine a bit more than usual and just like be open to receiving, like not even necessarily any sort of like sexual acts, but more so just like receiving the present moment, receiving delicious food, just receiving nourishment really on a deep cellular level. And so on that topic, he had asked, will you receive a kiss from me?
Aww,
and it was
that's
so
such a sweet way to say it.
Right. So sweet. And also, I just also had this moment of like, it wasn't a full fuck yes. And so I sat and I paused, and I, looking back, like, I'm so proud I took that moment instead of like awkwardly nodding my head like, sure, we can share a kiss. Yeah. I was like, I like took a little breath, and I was like, I'm feeling more friend vibes. And like, that felt really good to uphold my boundaries. I was like, yes, Opal, you go, girl.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been really working on those. So to put that into practice and like really honor, because while he's super cute, like he has a lot of great things going for him, I truly feel friend vibes, and that felt great to just like own up to and not try to like pretend. And
How did he react?
so it was actually really impressive on his end. Like, he just...
As to yours.
he just kept his composure. I feel like didn't even flinch.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, sick. Love that. This is his response right now. And we just continued on our conversation. And then a little bit into it, I asked him, like, how he was feeling, because it was getting a bit late. And... told him I wanted to be up early and was essentially wrapping things up for the night. And it was nice. I was thinking as I went back to my van and he was in his, because we literally like slept on the same street, like right there.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I was like thinking, you know, there could have been an array of ways the night ended. Like, I could have invited him into my van, we could have gotten cozy in his, and like things could have happened, you know, like I could have just rolled with it and like saw how I felt throughout the process. But instead I was like honoring the fact that I felt friend energy from him and wanted to keep it that way. And then we went on our separate ways. And I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, when a guy is attracted to a woman, they're gonna shoot their shot.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes not if they're shy, but most often they'll shoot their shot because why not? You know, life's too short. I love operating with that same mentality too. But it really comes down to like a respect thing. Like the fact that he was able to just really honor what I was feeling in that moment and be like, okay,
And then
not now, maybe later.
Maybe not forever. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, things can grow, and I've come to this place within romantic and sexual situations to honor my moods and let the fluidity that I feel within me be okay. And I wonder, as in certain situations I say no at one point, but then maybe later I do feel like I want to explore something. Do you feel if you had said yes and gone with the flow, maybe it'd be harder to stay friends? Do you think once that seal is broken, if you will, can it ever really go back? Or because for me it can.
I love that.
It's very easy to just be like, well, that's how we flowed before, but now I'm not really feeling it, and like,
love that.
I can see someone as a friend after. But can men, do you think? What have you experienced? Like, once that seal is broken, is it donezo for friends?
I think that's a great question, because I've pondered that a bunch as well. Yeah. And I feel like not only does it depend on the man, but it also depends on the woman. Like, I think that's dope that you're able to just befriend these guys that you were maybe once intimate with or even had the hots for, and just like something happened where you weren't into them anymore, and that was that. Like, you just chose to be their friend.
I forget.
Wow.
Like, I'm just a very blank slate in the moment kind of person, and I feel you as your essence right now, but when I see you 6 weeks from now, I'm going to feel you as your essence then. And it's going to be totally different. And I just feel into people so much in the moment that whatever happened 5 years ago or 6 months ago, there's no trace of it for me, which can be a problem, because sometimes people do have track records that I should kind of be aware of.
Right.
So it can get me into trouble being kind of gullible in a way where I'm like, I see you now.
Yes, but that's like a superpower, like you're super present. And also, I was gonna say you're superhuman. You just give me like extraterrestrial energy.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Like, I literally, last night we got on the topic of podcasts, and I was like, oh my gosh, doing podcasts with Nova, need to reach out. And I was like, also have to show you her profile, because she's the cutest thing ever. And I was like, don't we get like ET energy?
Yes.
In the best way. Like, literally, you have superpowers.
Thank you. I didn't mean to get off the topic, because you were going to say some good shit about
yes, we were going back
breaking the seal with men, and like, once you go there, can you go back?
Yeah.
What have you noticed?
For me, it's been a challenge. The guys, on the other hand, I find are more open, because
interesting.
For example, past relationships, I've been in partnerships where I've been cheated on, and that doesn't feel good. And for me, it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, then it's like, I don't really fuck with you. You know what I mean? Like, it hurts my heart too much. And then it's detrimental to me and my mental health and my heart. And so with that, like, I haven't been able to really remain friends with previous partners. And just the other day, I saw my most recent ex at my place of work, and I was wondering, like, I wonder how he feels about seeing me, because he deeply saw me and was with one of his best friends, whom I'm also friends with, and like, the friend waved at me before he left, and it felt good to see him. But also, I wonder, like, if he feels awkward in a sense of like not wanting to, I guess, disturb the peace and my energy. Just due to how the way things unfolded. Like, I was definitely very hurt after our breakup, and I know I felt that he really wanted to respect my wishes with the no contact and whatnot. So in that particular case, I feel like it's a bit unique. But after him, there was one person who I had known on social media for a long time, and he was great. We ended up meeting in person, connected, but it also felt like friend energy at a point for me. And so, to circle back to your question, we were intimate together, and it felt really good in the moment, like deep check-ins, which I feel like is important. Like, consent is huge. And so with that, us being intimate, then there was a point while he was staying with me, because he wasn't from here, where the switch flipped for me.
Yeah.
And it was deep friend, brother energy.
That happens to me a lot. It's like a switch.
Once it goes brother, can't go back.
Yeah.
And so, like, I really was in this space of, like, okay, do I flow with it? Because, like, this has been building up for months on months, and, like, we've been excited, and I feel like I wasn't as excited. Like, I felt resentment build a bit. I was just getting annoyed at, like, all these little things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta tell him.
Yeah.
And I ended up sharing what was on my heart, and, like, we really explored as to, like, why it wasn't feeling good. Perhaps in time it would feel good. What that could look like, and just all the things. And now we're friends. Like, he's the one person that I feel like I've really been able to maintain a friendship with, and like truly care about, and like want to see succeed. Not that I don't with my exes, but it's just different. Like, those people have really hurt me, and like it doesn't feel good to maintain that connection. Whereas the people, I guess, basically, like, if they don't leave a not so good feeling imprint on my heart, then I'm able to maintain that connection. But if it were to end in a bad way, I kind of don't really see a means as to why keep that connection, if that makes sense.
That totally does make sense. Do you want your matcha, by the way?
I would love my matcha.
Here you go, love.
Thanks, Mama.
Yeah, I feel... So last night, I saw someone that I've had very random bouts with.
Look at us go.
Throughout, like, we met when I was, like, almost 20 or something.
Wow.
So it's been, like, a decade of, like...
deep growth, transformation.
These weird, universal, cosmic interactions where we're just, like... we're attracted to each other again out of nowhere. And
That's
last
fun.
night I met up with him, and it was so interesting to watch the resistance within me, because our connection has always been kind of like extremely sexual. Like, it just always was like a flame, like, he's an Aries, I'm a Leo, like, let's just do this shit, you know? And
spicy.
it was really interesting watching myself battle my own mind and ego. Like, at a certain point, my mind and ego had fought me into a corner of paralysis, where I literally felt the decision of, I'm either gonna leave and this is like completely gonna be broken forever, and our connection and like our flow is gonna be completely halted, and I might not ever see him, or like it will be years again and maybe something will happen, but like it's over for a while. And I'm gonna leave and feel that kind of regret, or we're gonna do this and I'm gonna feel, you know, into my sexuality with him again, out of nowhere again, you know. And I was really fighting my ego with my identity, honestly. Like, I really have been struggling with what sexuality means to me, and what that means about me, and my, like, as my preferences change and grow through time, how harshly I can judge myself for it.
Wow.
And that was the wall that I was hitting last night, is I felt, I feel like I'm such a dynamic, deep person. And when things go sexual, something flips in me where all of a sudden I kind of disassociate from those deeper parts of myself, which I think is trauma. I think it's a mechanism of like escapism. Because I've had sexual trauma and relational trauma where I've needed to detach from who I truly am just to kind of survive the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you experienced that.
Yeah, it's lame, because now that I'm healing, I still find myself using these mechanisms of these to cope.
Of course, because it's comfortable. You know, it probably
It's
feels
just what
very
you do.
safe.
When you have sex, it's just what you do. You leave a little bit.
Or
you
also,
disassociate,
like,
whatever.
It's all you know, perhaps,
Correct.
too. And I'm curious, like, as you explore this, when you are in the act of intimacy, do you find that your head and your heart are disconnected? Like, do you feel as soon as, like you're saying, once you get in that space, going from friends to a more sexual experience, that all of a sudden it's like they aren't together?
Correct. And why my friend that I was with last night is so triggering is because it's very much like a switch for him. Like, he sees me as a person. Like, that's not a threat. I know he doesn't see me as just a piece of meat, you know? Like, he's a very spiritual, connected and tuned person. That's not what scares me about him. It's just how fiery and quickly he goes into the sexual stuff that I almost don't have time to keep things calibrated and connected.
Ooh.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so that's what I feel like I need, is someone to kind of go slow with me until I learn how to not disconnect myself as I'm coming into my body.
I'm like, you hear that, men? Us ladies need time.
Give me a little time, baby.
We gotta get warmed up. Like, I feel that is just... We're speaking on the juiciest things, because I, too, have been, like, really tapping into my inner sensual nature and, like, working on expressing my sexuality. And so it's so beautiful that you feel, like, vulnerable enough to share those parts, because it's not always easy, you know?
There can be so much shame around it from the experiences we have, but also just culture. And, you know, I think it's interesting because if you feel okay with this, I kind of want to talk about OnlyFans, because
oh yeah,
I think it's kind of the future. And for me, as someone who's always kept, first of all, I'm a 12th house Leo. Like, I shine in the darkest places. So
she does. She shines bright.
Sexuality and, like, those personal things have always been a very private, almost to a fault, hidden and, like, repressed. Like, I have had shame around the deeper parts of myself, which is also why I'm doing this podcast, because it's time to shine light where I do explore, like, these deeper parts are okay. And, you know, the ugly parts of myself I want to honor and allow be a part of my journey, because I think anyways, you know what I'm saying.
I do.
I want to wrap it back around to the OnlyFans thing, because I've been, again, mind experimenting with how that can either go kind of toxic, where I feel like, you know, it can be just a means of playing this game to... I see women on there where they disassociate with themselves. They do cross their own boundaries for the sake of a check. And it's worried me. But then lately, I've also seen people who honor their truth and are stepping into their sexuality in a beautifully vulnerable way that I think can be, like, a role model for women.
Right.
How do you see the kind of publicized sexuality and how we can still maintain integrity of who we are as spirits, and how do you know where your boundaries are?
That's such a beautiful question. Thank you for asking and bringing up the OnlyFans, because I feel like a lot of people have been really curious lately, because it's like, organically Opal's on OnlyFans, like, what? I want to see, what is she doing? Like, there's so many questions people have been asking, and it's nice to, like, be in this space to feel safe enough to share, like, what's on my mind and my heart. And with that, I felt the call. My friend and I, who went into business together, she has a background in sex work in particular, and when she was on OnlyFans, it was more like porn status. And she was getting nasty with it. And she actually had the idea first to create one together, and I was like, whoa, like, just sat with it for a moment. And we were actually in the gym, and I was thinking, like, all my content is based around cooking, fitness, overall health and wellness, like that kind of lifestyle. And it's something I feel very good and confident promoting. And, like, that gives me so much joy to be able to help other people level up through food, through fitness, and now through fashion. And So essentially what we're doing is like content geared around that, like cooking, fitness, fashion, and just like making it a little sexy. Definitely sexy. And it feels great because it's very much in alignment. Like a lot of people, when they go to OF, it's like mainly for money. And while that is great, it's a nice way to make passive income, I would say. It's definitely not the only reason I'm on it. As I mentioned before, I'm like really tapping into this new identity, like one that can feel really safe to express my sensual nature, because I'm just a sensual being, like most women are, but also with my Taurin in me, like extremely sensual in the way I do anything and everything. Like people have pointed that out, and I'm like, okay, I guess I could see that. And then circling back to sexuality, for me, it's been a long journey of a lot of repression, like coming from the Midwest and then the East Coast, and like being raised by a single mom, which I know was not easy. And like, I give her so much credit because she really like stuck with me for the wild ride. Like high school years, bless her heart.
As did mine. Yeah.
Like,
thanks, Mama,
man,
for putting up with me. My shit.
And all they can do is like guide us with a loving heart and accept us for who we are. And like, really recently, she discovered I have an OnlyFans because she subscribed.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was intense. I like kind of saw it coming just because I had her muted from seeing my stories, because as the evolution of my OnlyFans came to in these past couple months, I began posting things on my Instagram story that were a little saucier than normal, like videos of me working out, but like up close of my glutes, and just like cooking in the kitchen but in short shorts, like just various things where I'm like, she probably wouldn't love that, and I more so wanted to protect her heart. But also, as I went into this new, I guess you could say new identity, like new type of work, I really wanted to make sure that I was doing everything in alignment and like being really clear with my partner, my business partner, about my boundaries going into it, so that way there was like no pressure on me to perform in a certain way or to do a certain thing on camera that didn't feel good. And I also operated with the idea that at any point, any of my family members could subscribe and like see my content, and would I feel good about that? And so when she did, and I look at my phone and I see a picture of me like arms over boobs, avocado by mouth, tongue out, I'm like, oh shit, mom knows I have an OnlyFans. Which is like kind of hilarious, but also is like, whew, we're gonna have a deep talk about this for sure.
Yeah.
Because just like slight backstory, growing up in the Midwest, it was very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Conservative?
Yeah, very much so. Like, you're not exposed to much because there isn't much happening. And moving to the East Coast, it was like, whoa, culture shock. There was just a lot more people, a lot more opportunity, things happening. Similar in the sense of coming to San Diego. Like, people are so much more free and open and expressive, not only with, like, their bodies, like how they dress, but also, like, their sexuality. So much more open to exploring. Even, like, multiple partners at the same time. Like, that was... Yeah. San Diego is definitely my first, like, nude in public experience, and also just, like, polyamory. My best friend, I get confused, polygamy.
This always comes up, and I've literally been doing the same, like, challenging myself with those things and exploring.
I love that
as well. And I want to talk about that more, but if you don't mind, I want to back it up to the beginning of when your business partner brought this up to you. What was going through your mind, and what blocks did you need to overcome in order to even consider the idea of actually doing it? Because I'm sitting in that right now of, like, if that was an opportunity I were to go into, ripping that Band-Aid off and just, like, beginning to explore the parts of myself that have normally through my life been private and repressed,
Right.
now presenting them publicly, there'd be a whole lot of work I'd have to do
Yeah.
to like really feel in alignment
Definitely.
with that and not have resistance.
For sure. And the resistance was there. Like, she said, she shared the idea, and I was like sitting with it, like mid-workout, kind of stunned, but also like semi-excited, because I was like, ooh, I mean, since we've become friends, I've been able to tap into this more like fun, flowy, sexually expressive kind of person that I've always wanted to step into. But it definitely wasn't easy. Like, I was thinking about how people perceive me, both like friends, coworkers, family alike, like everyone. It was more so thinking about like others versus me and like what I want. And then when I came, there was another piece that came up for me where it was really interesting, actually. With her background, like being in sex work, I had this thought of like almost her sexualizing me and like getting a bit in my head and being like, whoa, I don't know if this feels good. Like, why would you even bring this up to me, knowing my boundaries? Like, I'm just more conservative than her. I always have been, probably always will be. And so there was this piece of me that was like, almost felt a little betrayal. Like, you know me so well, why would you bring this up? Kind of energy.
Almost as if it were kind of a selfish request on her
Yeah.
side, like, come over to what I want.
Right, because
Yeah.
like she used to do this. She made like 6 figures, killed it. She knows how to build an OnlyFans presence.
And she's comfortable.
Yeah,
in that. She's explored that already.
She's super comfortable
Yeah.
in her body, like one of the most embodied women I know, which is so beautiful. And I feel like that's how we became friends. Like, I saw that in her and I wanted that within me more so. And I was just like so drawn to her presence because her energy is just so magnetic. I was like, wow, who's this sex kitten of a woman? Like, damn.
Yeah.
And like, she called me in too. And so I feel like our friendship is so beautiful, but in a sense feels like a partnership, because not only are we in business, both through the OnlyFans and Sustainably Groovy, our styling business, we hang out a lot. And so there's a lot to communicate. And as I mentioned, like, I don't necessarily always want to have to externally process things. And so I really sat with that. And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a really sweet thing to do. I feel like that'll really help me tap into my sexuality more and like be able to express my sensuality in a non-ashamed way. And just like really become comfortable and confident with myself as a person and like be able to inspire others through that.
And how have you learned to distinguish your boundaries? Because that's a very personal thing. And having someone in your court that is so familiar with this is so beautiful to, you know, kind of be guided as to what to expect and like, you know, what's going through her head and her experiences is obviously very helpful to acquire understanding, because I think that is a big block with sexuality is the mind gets in the way. Like the ego is the first thing that's going to go, nope, I think this right now and da-da-da.
Right.
And so getting past those blocks and like hearing someone else's experiences of how they did that, I think is very useful. But at the same time, what does Opal feel?
Yeah.
You know? And where are her boundaries solely and individually? How have you learned to distinguish what is your boundary?
That's another really beautiful question, because I feel like it always changes. Like,
isn't that beautiful?
yeah.
Wow.
And so as you ask that question, like, what feels good for Opal, it's something that I have to check in with myself on a regular basis, just because, like, with that kind of work, people are always going to push your boundaries. Not her, like, she's very loving and wants to honor exactly where I'm at. And we actually had a discussion about this past week when we were in LA together, because the woman's house we were staying at, they're big content creators for OnlyFans, like killing it. And it was unique to see this one woman's story, because she came from also a very conservative background, and she now does, like, I mean, full-on sex work, essentially. But it's not in the sense of, like...
Oh, you have a little,
matcha on my nose?
Yeah. It was a little bubble.
Love that. She has great boundaries from what it sounds like. We didn't get to drop in because she had to leave a couple days into us staying. But it was really cool talking to her, someone different from my best friend, because she has come from a very sexually explorative background. And this one woman, I mean, she has a partner that she's had for 9 years. Like, she's very monogamous and has only had a handful of partners. And so to hear very different backgrounds, it just opened my eyes and gave me a lot more respect, because I was like, wow, you know, our boundaries change over time. That's something to be really mindful of. It's like, when I first moved to California, I wouldn't have been comfortable with getting naked. Like, it felt weird for me. I remember doing a photo shoot and like all these models are naked on a boat, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, where am I?
When you're not exposed to that, it's a little shocking.
It's a deep shock to the system. Yeah. And it's like tapping into yourself and like just asking yourself questions like, how does this make me feel? Like, do I want to partake? If I don't, like, am I okay with not doing that and like sitting on the sidelines? And I am one who like experiences FOMO from time to time, as do most of us. And so like this past week in LA, we had a really talented photographer who was going to do some film and some digital photography for us in exchange for meal prep, which was so sweet, like stoked to work with him. And her vision and my vision for the photo shoots were pretty similar. But she definitely wanted like more nude shots in nature. And I'm like, okay, this is different. Like, haven't done a nude photo shoot before. Like, I had, but not in this sense. Like, it was different.
A little bit more
intimate.
On the nose of like, we're showing your body right now.
Right. And like another
not
layer.
Suggestions.
Exactly. And like another layer too, like being fully in a field. Like, there were hikers that came through and were like butt ass naked. Like, it was actually
that honestly sounds kind of exciting.
It was pretty thrilling. Like, it was cool.
Yeah.
And there was also this part of me that I've been navigating some newness in regards to just like how to word this. So during the photo shoot, I kept getting this like wild woman within energy flowing through, because like, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been growing out my armpit hair.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
It feels great.
Okay.
And like, at first it felt weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's like the hair is getting longer, you know, natural urge to want to shave it. And then I was like, okay, leg hair is getting longer. Like, literally grew out all the hair just because I didn't have a razor. Like, you see, I'm in the van, like, we have limited things. Just lost my razor, and I like didn't feel called to like dig around the nooks and crannies to get it. And so with that photo shoot, I had like a very intentional moment of where I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna be nude for some of these shots. I can either shave or I can just like let it flow.
Yeah. Wow.
And I like really contemplated it multiple days, going back and forth. I'm like, am I gonna shave? Am I gonna leave it? And I was like, you know what? I'm like really tapping into this wild woman within archetype, and just like, I'm gonna send it. Hairy or not. Take
That's
it or
beautiful.
leave it. Like, I really want to embrace the raw feminine. That's what I'm feeling called to step into.
Wow. I mean, I think that's so beautiful, because that even inspires me. A couple years ago, I had like a natural trip, which is just me seeing through the fabric of reality, high on life, you know?
Amazing.
And I realized how our hair, they're actually like little antennas that allow us to sense and feel into the world. Like, there's a reason why when you get chills and your little hairs stand up on end, they're receiving energetic information around us. They're going ding, 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 ding. I sense something. And so, you know, I almost started letting my hair grow out again, because I'm like, I'm cutting my instinctive, receptive connection to nature.
Wow.
And I think we're doing that in a lot of ways in society, not being as connected to the earth and that sort of thing. But we are antennas. We are linked to everything around us, and I think our hairs are like little receptors. They're like, oh, I feel stuff. And so I think that's so beautiful, you know, doing a shoot in nature as well. Like, that's what's so thrilling about that to me, is, you know, when you think of sexuality, sometimes it can be seen as like, oh, this is like a bedroom kind of thing, like doing it in private, but like unleashing that and doing that in nature and in these different environments that it sounds like you're experimenting with, like the gym and in the kitchen and all this stuff, like that's so cool to me, because there's a freedom and just like letting your sensuality come out in normal places, right? Not like in this private dungeon, like where, you know.
yeah, that's such a cool thought that you arose, because like it's so true. It's like sex is such a private act, you know. It's like done in the bedroom in like certain positions, and like you need just like a lot of standards that we've been ingrained to believe. And
usually I think that comes from the porn culture too.
Porn culture and parents got us fucked up. The two P's is tough. Yeah. For real though, like in porn, it's like people have, I mean, I have not watched porn in so long, but from what I remember back in the day, it's like everything's just so like quote unquote perfect, you know, perfectly round fake titties, perfectly tucked pussy, and like just no hair, and like
very Hollywoodized.
Yeah, like coming multiple times, like squirting all over the place, and just like literally crazy stuff. Like guys with ginormous cocks, and like the sex, there's no true connection or true love. And like that's what kills me, is like the kids these days, if they are watching it, which I'm sure a good portion of people are, because that's just reality, like those that aren't really on the path quite yet, sink into stuff like that. And it's like, first of all, I don't really feel it makes people feel good. Like, it's definitely a temporary numbing effect where it might feel good in the moment, but then after, at least I noticed with myself, it would like leave this weird residue that didn't feel good.
It's kind of the disassociation thing that I have had. It is taught, you know, like porn creates the standards of where we are mentally going into the act in real life. And that's why I see OnlyFans as being potential, like, you know, people who are on there being potential role models for the future of sexuality, because even in social media in general, not even just OnlyFans, there is such a demand and a need for realness. Like, we're so over the edited, overly performative content that is disconnected from who we really are and the realness of us. And that's what I do see opportunity in people who have, you know, gotten past their blocks and their egos of like the stigma around it, of exploring and setting that the tone for the real shit. Like, what does it really mean to be totally present in your body and share that with others? And if I can challenge that too, you know, one of my questions and one of the things that in my mind is a huge hurdle as to why I feel currently refraining from that, is, do you feel that the consciousness level of men right now, do you think they're going to fetishize anything no matter what? Are they gonna see things as kind of through that lens of how porn has been in anything anybody does, even if it is real and of this more holistic experience of sexuality? Because I worry, I go, okay, well, are men just gonna jack off to this? Like, men that I don't even know, are they just gonna jack off to this and it's still gonna be fetishized in a way that is still just of the body and detached from the soul?
That's a stellar question, because that's something I ponder myself too. Like, as I move forward with OnlyFans, I question, like, especially after the conversation with my mom, like challenging me on, you know, posting content, suggestive content at that could in fact like prompt people to want to do exactly that, like jerk off. And like, well, I hope that's what is not happening. I do also understand that there is a good chance that guys are like, ooh, the two of them together is super hot, like that turns them on. And so why I'm showing up in the way I'm showing up and not doing nudity, but rather just like more self-expressive, fun, sensual, sexy content is not only because it feels good, but because I want to educate people. So I'm really noticing that it's like more of a self journey for me, tapping into that. And also like inspiring other people, men, for example, because that's mainly our subscribers is primarily males, and allowing them to have access to this content, not only because it looks appealing and maybe stimulating, but because there's education attached to it. So for example, like I'm looking all sexy, cooking in the kitchen, but have a fire recipe attached. Like I want guys to be able to be like, wow, she looks so vibrant and beautiful in the kitchen, and also like, I'm trying to make that. You know what I mean? Not like, I'm trying to smash that, I'm trying to make that. Yeah. And like same with a workout. We're really looking to get more into our educational content, 'cause right now we post daily, but it's not necessarily like full-blown workouts or recipes, etc. But that is something I'm looking more into doing, is just like deep education and having fun and being sexy while doing it.
Adding value.
Yeah, adding value, because it's like I've gone through waves where with my personal coaching business, health, lifestyle, etc., I wanted to keep it very business-like. And I've heard like, of course, sex sells. But then I've gone both ways, where I've noticed like on my insights, people are most attractive or most engagement, I'll say, is when I'm in a bathing suit or just like minimal clothes are on typically. That's what performs the best. And so it's interesting to observe that and then move forward in the way that I am, and just being open to like, okay, well, sex sells. I also want to like keep my values and my boundaries in mind and like do what feels comfortable moment to moment, because it will change, like I said before. And I have noticed already, like as the journey has progressed, what I feel like I'm feeling more comfortable expressing myself. And it's cool to have the people also like watch from the beginning of our journey, people who have subscribed to my bestie's page for a long time, and then they see her doing something new with me. And it's like, wow, I'm so excited. Like, I want to see Opal too. And so they'll go to our Fit Foodie Freaks page. And
Fit Foodie Freaks?
Yes,
that's so
which
cute.
speaks to itself, because it's like, you know, it embodies all the things. My mom actually came up with that name.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the end, she's on board with it and supportive.
Well, so she came up with that when I first became a health coach and got my certification. I was pondering an Instagram name.
Wait, Freaks was always in the name?
Yes, it was it was Fit Foodie Freak. That was my Instagram name. And if you look at my Facebook, it's attached. Like Fit Foodie Freak is still there for my health coaching stuff.
Wow.
And so
it was kind of, the seed was always there.
It was always planted. Even with Sustainably Groovy, like my ex and I, we were going to go into business. Very glad we didn't. Worked out for the best. But when I pitched this idea to my bestie, my business partner, she fell in love with it. And I'm like, yo, we are like deeply meant for each other. It's just like full fuck yes energy on both of our ends, which I feel like is so important, you know, when it comes to anything in life. Like if you don't have that instant full fuck yes within, try not to do it, you know?
Or just pause.
Pause.
Yeah.
The pause is key. It's so easy to just react and like go for what seems like the best option in the moment, but it's like when we pause, we really realize like what feels the best.
And it's all subjective, kind of going back to that external perspective of how your content can be perceived by someone who's maybe of a little bit lower level of consciousness. There is no shame in physicality. There is no shame in getting turned on and you know, wanting to feel good in your body, because even I feel turned on and aroused by certain things, and following that instinct, there's nothing to be shameful of. I think it's the awareness and adding that value and education to it that allows there to be a more holistic connection to it. And that, if that can be achieved, if there is that balance and that way to also integrate the higher levels of ourselves to that and be an example for that for others who watch. I think that's very, very valuable, and so needed, because the last thing I feel our intentions as women are who create content
Right.
is to bring men's awareness lower. We've got enough of that in the world.
Yeah.
You know? The goal is to create a higher vibration within them.
Yeah.
And to stimulate them, not just in the groin,
Right.
but maybe in the heart, maybe in the solar plexus, like they're inspired to maybe create something
Yes,
afterwards. Or
exactly.
their minds open up to a new concept about how they see life. Like, that's what I value. And I know there's such a thing as spiritual bypassing. You can't only be up here either.
Right.
You have to integrate it. But I think removing kind of the taboo stigmas around sexuality, and that it's this isolated thing over in a box over here that you go to sometimes, making it less of an island, and that it's all one thing. The most high spiritual, godly thoughts that we have can be linked to these root chakra activities.
Absolutely.
Whoa, would humanity change?
Yeah, I mean, I fully believe so.
Yeah. And you're setting an example for that, and guiding humanity in that way energetically, it sounds like. I haven't seen your content, but with the intentions that you have behind it, I think that's where change happens, is when we don't abandon and shame one part of ourselves, but integrate it with the rest of us. That's where the magic's at.
Yeah, it's a deeply holistic approach, no matter what way you look at it. You know, like having the mind, peace, the body, the spirit, like it all goes so hand in hand. And with that, yeah, I can only hope that what I create inspires other people, because through my Instagram, it's been a bit of a journey from starting out as a health coach and then rebranding into a conscious lifestyle coach, and just like evolving and being okay with the fact that you may set out to do one thing and then it turns into something else. That's something I've had to learn to like lean into.
Embrace, yeah.
Yeah, because it can be hard, you know, if we, for example, like I said, set out to be a health coach and then turns into more of a lifestyle coach, and then, you know, now it's evolving a bit more and I'm doing a bit on fashion, and like that's feeling the most aligned for me. But with that said too, like circling it back to the OnlyFans, because there's a piece that I wanted to touch on where the people, it's been really beautiful, like getting to know some of these subscribers, because like, you know, they're humans, like viewing them as exactly that. Like they have wants, they have needs, they have desires. And so it's like when you can learn a bit more about their background and you can see like, oh, this person from Georgia is really wanting to level up their health, and seeing my content inspires them to go to the gym a couple days a week. Like, great, love that, you know? Or like, Al over here wants to start cooking from home 4 days a week, and because I have various recipes posted throughout, he can do that. And so not only do I feel like it's a great way to inspire others, but I feel like for me in particular, it's going to be a great way to call in clients too, like coaching clients, people that want to level up their nutrition, their lifestyle, their fashion. Like there's just so much possibility there. And I really do feel like it is kind of the wave of the future when used in an aligned, conscious way, you know, because there are a lot of people I haven't really seen, but before I got on, I definitely had this stigma of like, oh, people that are on OnlyFans create porn, therefore they're sluts, and just like had all this like untrue, false narratives basically in my mind. And so I can just tell it's going to be really transformative, tapping into this more and more, peeling back the layers of like my blockages, tapping into my boundaries, and just like feeling free to explore.
I'm so excited
Thanks.
for you on that, and it's so beautiful to be here and hold that space with you and just feel into your experience, because I'm just a very empathetic person, so I'm like feeling your energy, and what a liberating, freeing place to be.
That's exactly the word that has been coming to the forefront of my mind. Liberating.
Yeah. And we deserve that.
Yes, us women, like,
Yes.
we've been repressed for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I know too many people who just don't, like, feel fully confident in their self-expression or even, like, safe to express sexually. Like, when you were talking about being with that person and feeling those blockages and maybe not even necessarily knowing how to communicate them, like, there's so much to that, you know? Like, it definitely stems from trauma, I believe, and also just, like, your current beliefs with sexuality, perhaps, like, your comfortability with yourself and, like, expressing, because that's something that, like, I've had to develop, and I still work on it a lot, is, like, communicating vocally to other people, like, this feels good, or no, this does not, you know, and just being, like, very firm in that.
Not being afraid to say something kind of shocking or off-putting, like, just saying it anyways. I mean, that's how you were with that guy that you were spoken to. Like, I feel friend vibes. Like, you took a moment and
Right,
I
and
feel
I was
friend.
like, wow, that's bold.
That just came out of my mouth.
Like, I was thinking about that
I
this
love
morning.
shocking myself with
Yeah.
just, like, saying the real shit and pushing that boundary, because we're here to evolve. Like, we're not going to leave here and look back and be worried about something that we said. We're going to be worried about something we didn't say or we didn't do.
Exactly.
And so, like, really pushing those boundaries within us and trying many things, because that's what this podcast is for me, is it's all feeding itself. Like, I'm not going to limit myself, I can't do a podcast because I only do music. Like, no. Why do I even do music? It's because of these deeper things that I don't share or talk about with anybody. And how can I push my boundary to start publicly sharing these deeper parts of where I'm going in my mind? Because that is what motivates my music. So not talking about that and keeping that to myself is cutting a part of me off.
Wow. That's so
And
cool you came to that realization, and that's what made you feel called to create House of Consciousness.
Yes.
Wow.
And I can see
love
myself potentially expanding in more areas.
Oh, for sure.
Especially, like, as I hear you in your journey, I feel like that's just the collective vibe right now. We're all pushing our boundaries in all areas. It's like a very well-rounded, like, pushing out of our conscious space in which we, like, share, because
Absolutely.
that's the beauty, right, is sharing all of this stuff to like inspire others to push that other wall out within their arena. And so I just want to bring it back around. I want to wrap up. This has, like, been such a beautiful conversation, but if there's anything you want to let my peeps know about where they can find you and the offerings that you have within nutrition and this meal prepping thing and your partner, I'd love you to share, because she is such a light, as you guys obviously see, and, like, just your journey and everywhere, like, that you're exploring. Wow, like, we want to keep up with you, because, like, no telling where it's gonna go. You're limitless.
Yeah. Thank you, Nova.
Yeah.
As are you. Limitless. We are together.
Yeah.
And just a bit about what I do in addition to the OnlyFans, where you can find my partner and I at Fit Foodie Freaks. We also offer styling services. So men, women alike, we style them fashion-wise. So if that's something that any of your audience feels called to level up in, like, we do in person here in San Diego. We do virtual as well. And that's just so fun. Like, she really helped ignite my passion for fashion, which I deeply appreciate, because I felt that it needed to be just food and fitness, like, kind of limiting myself a little bit. Then I was like, oh, wait, this feels really good too. And so bringing that piece out in me and honoring the fact that, well, yes, I love cooking in the kitchen, and I do meal prep for people in San Diego as well, in addition to lifestyle coaching. So basically what that entails is looking at your nutrition and also focusing on other areas beyond the plate. So, like, your fitness, physical health, your relationships, your spirituality, your career. Like, I just love diving into all of that juiciness with people and helping unveil perhaps the blockages that may be preventing them from fully living in alignment.
Wow.
And yeah, ultimately,
one-on-one, wow, that can be intense.
Definitely.
Do you meet resistance with people sometimes on that stuff? Do you feel like you have to kind of tiptoe around the things that you see of where their blocks are? Because sometimes I feel some people get defensive. Or are the clients you're attracting super ready?
Well, in the beginning, there's more so people where resistance would be there even before we started coaching together. you know, like me presenting my package to them, and then all of a sudden, while they were super intrigued and into it, they find out the price and they're like a bit sticker shocked, you could say, and they retreat a little bit, and it's as if like all of a sudden everything they shared they just don't want. And I'm like, whoa, remember what you said about XYZ, like
Right.
don't you want to be here in 2-3 months? Like, how do you expect to do that without changing these things? And so, I mean, it's really like holding up a mirror to them and like showing them the things that they want to bring into this reality and like work on within themselves, where it's like, oh, whoa, I actually like really do need you and your support. And yeah, I feel like I danced around your question a little bit.
That's
but,
okay, yeah. That's all right. Do you want to finish I know there's more. There's more, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot. Opal, I am a woman who wears many hats, and so to sum it up nice and easy, I help people level up in food, fitness, and fashion, and with that, ultimately help people eat, live, and be vibrant. And so if you do want to find me beyond the camera here, you can look me up on Instagram. I'm organically_Opal. And my business partner and I, who you guys will also love,
I'd love to talk to her too.
Yes, you guys would vibe. She's deeply from out of this world.
Love.
And our styling business is sustainably_groovy. And then if you're trying to keep up with our fitness, our freaky food games and gains, we are Fit Foodie Freaks at OnlyFans. Oh, this has been so cozy.
Soul sister.
I love that you came in the van. I'm like, yo, let's just come pull up. Like, let's do it. And we did it.
Pull up. Skirt! Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
I know you have to go meal prep now.
About a meal prep, baby.
I really hope this video didn't turn off in the middle. I'm not gonna lie, I really had to like keep my mind present because I was like, oh shit, if it turned off.
Time flew by.
It worked! Yay!
It's crazy it's 12:13. I feel like I could literally talk to you for hours.
I'm surprised it's only been an hour 15 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah.
That felt like 2. I
Did
was
it?
like, oh boy, I hope that she doesn't like run over too much.
We're good. I feel like that actually invigorated me and like lit me up. So now I'll be like whipping it up in the kitchen, feeling extra
Hell
good.
yeah!
Yep.